The Seminole history is complex and unique, being integrated with diverse groups of native tribes, including Creeks from Georgia and Alabama, as well as slaves. They also maintained complex trade routes that reached as far as the Great Lakes and modern-day Texas. In the early days of its existence, the fledgling United States government carried out a policy of displacement and extermination against the American Indians in the eastern U.S., systematically removing them from the path of white settlement. In this episode, we'll discuss the First, Second, and Third Seminole Wars that were fought by the U.S. Army against the Seminoles in an effort to remove them from their ancestral land and relocate, along with other Southeastern tribes, to the Indian Territory west of the Mississippi River, in what is now present-day Oklahoma. Under the leadership of powerful chiefs, the Seminoles' resistance to removal started a conflict that would last until 1842 and see multiple American commanders try and fail to completely defeat and remove the Seminoles. The war was vicious and bloody, but as a nation, they never stopped resisting. In 1493, on Christopher Columbus's second voyage to the Americas, the Spanish conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon sailed with him to lead a European expedition for gold. He settled in Hispaniola, now known as Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, where he became a military commander and was appointed deputy governor. The effect of the enslavement of the native Taino and the unleashing of diseases like smallpox and measles was devastating to the native population. The Caribs, a nearby tribe, fought Ponce de Leon, and his family barely escaped. After discovering a large amount of gold there, in 1513, his ships landed near present-day St. Augustine and claimed this beautiful land for Spain. He named it Florida, meaning place of flowers. However, reports from Ponce de Leon and other well-known conquistadors revealed that the existing cultures, including the Pensacola, Apalachee, Calusa, Ais, and many others, had powerful chiefdoms. When European ships first landed in Florida in the 16th century, the area was well populated. Natives in the region were farming rich lands in the north, growing corn, beans, and squash, and fishing or hunting for most of their food in the south. Fertile soils allowed farming to prosper. The most well-known tribe was the Calusa, whose vast domain was ruled by a single chief. They developed an elaborate political, social, and trade networks. They were also expert wood carvers and displayed great artistic skill. The most complex pre-contact culture in South Florida existed inland in the Lake Okeechobee Basin, where there was sophisticated political and social organizational structure as well. As part of the Spanish colonial strategy, Catholic missionaries were established to convert indigenous people to Christianity. Although once again, diseases such as smallpox and measles were brought into the area from the Spanish explorers, which wiped out entire villages. Florida natives were also taken as slaves as early as 1520. By the mid-1700s, most of the original inhabitants of Florida had been enslaved or devastated by disease. Warfare resulting from the European invasion caused other natives to relocate or escape to nearby areas. European settlers were moving into tribal areas across Georgia and Alabama as well. Warfare pushed various Creeks, Uchis, Yamasees, and other native tribes off of their ancestral lands in Georgia and Alabama. They went into a nearly empty Florida, a place they already knew well through trade and shared cultural traditions. Seminole history begins with this population of natives from Georgia and Alabama who migrated to Florida in the 1700s and formed the Seminoles. Conflicts with Europeans and other tribes caused them to seek new lands to live in peace. In 1817, a Creek chief, Neomantla, also known as King Philip, was at the core of the First Seminole War, which began in southwest Georgia and North Florida. The United States Major General Edmund P. Gaines tried to enforce a treaty to remove the Creeks from their own town site on ceded lands, which King Philip did not sign. He did not consider himself bound by it and said that he was directed by the powers above to defend his land and that he would do so. Following his refusal, 2 infantries were sent to support Gaines in an arrest of the chief and force him to meet with them. Another order was sent regarding the hostile character and conduct of the natives, rendering it absolutely necessary that they should be removed. This, combined with the safe haven the Seminoles were providing to escaped slaves, led the U.S. Army to increasingly infiltrate the Spanish territory to attack the tribe and recapture the slaves. These skirmishes, led by forces under General Andrew Jackson between 1817 and 1818, were part of the First Seminole War. The campaigns attacked several key Seminoles locations and forced the tribe farther south into Florida. Following the war, the United States effectively controlled East Florida. By 1821, the territory was brought under full U.S. control as Spain formally ceded Florida to the United States. After U.S. President Andrew Jackson's signing of the Indian Removal Act in 1830, the U.S. government attempted to relocate Seminoles to Oklahoma, causing yet another war. At the beginning of the Second Seminole War, lasting from 1835 to 1842, Micanopy was the principal leader of the Seminoles. His village, Cuscowilla, was located at the area of present-day Micanopy, Alachua County, Florida. In the spring of 1832, the Seminoles were called to a meeting to negotiate the Treaty of Payne's Landing with the U.S. government to move west, if the land was found to be suitable. Upon their return to Florida, however, there was a disagreement as to the terms of the treaty. Many of the chiefs stated that they had not committed to move their people to new territory, and they had been coerced through force and misinterpretation into signing. Even some U.S. Army officers claimed that the chiefs had been bullied into signing. Others noted evidence of trickery and how the treaty was phrased. One Black Seminole, Abraham, a former slave from Florida, was an interpreter and counselor. He was one of 2 interpreters at the Treaty of Payne's Landing. The Second Seminole War was the longest and most costly of all the wars of removal fought by the U.S. government. Under chiefs and warriors including Osceola, Jumper, Alligator, Micanopy, Okeechobee, and many others, the Seminoles as a nation never stopped resisting. The war was vicious and bloody. General Jessup captured many important Seminole leaders, including Osceola and Coachella, by seizing them while under a false white flag of truce. The Second Seminole War claimed the lives of over 1,500 U.S. soldiers and cost the government an estimated $15 million. At its conclusion in 1842, with no peace treaty declared, roughly 3,000 Seminoles had been removed to the Indian Territory.
Billy Bowlegs was a Seminole chief during the Second and Third Seminole Wars against the U.S. In 1832, he was also involved with the signing of the Treaty of Payne's Landing at Fort Gibson. After the end of the Second Seminole War, when the time came for their departure, Bowlegs and other chiefs refused to leave Florida.
After the war, Billy Bowlegs and other Seminole leaders were invited to Washington, D.C. This was a move by the federal government to all the Seminoles. They lived in relative peace until the start of the Third Seminole War, lasting from 1855 to 1858. This war started when U.S. Army engineers on surveying mission destroyed Bowlegs' banana trees they found in the Everglades. Warriors from Billy Bowlegs' group attacked and almost wiped out the Americans. This led to the Third and final Seminole War. The Army tried but could not capture Bowlegs. However, in 1858, he was convinced to surrender and moved to Indian Territory.
He was offered $10,000 for the move. Warriors and other citizens were offered less. The band initially refused, but later the group, now consisting of 123 Indians, agreed to the relocation. Later that year, Bowlegs and his followers arrived at their new home in the Indian Territory. Shortly after their arrival, Billy passed away, and later Seminoles adopted his name to honor his achievements.
In the 1950s and 60s, Florida Indians obtained federal recognition from the U.S. government. In fact, the Seminole Tribe of Florida and the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians of Florida are powerful factors in Florida politics, business, and culture.